Hello, everybody, and good to see you all. So much of you after the break, after the lunch. Yeah, usually I expected that it will be a little bit more empty here, but okay. So yeah, so much was said about transaction monitoring, about some indicators and so on. So something very similar will be provided in my presentation as well. Did you hear me? Sorry. Now it's better. Yeah? Okay. So of course, when we're talking about suspicious activity reports or suspicious transaction reports, sometimes we're talking about SARs, STRs, and so on. So if you in Lithuania we have STRs, but internationally it's more often we're calling it SARs. Yeah, so, but it's totally the same. I was some time ago I was surprised how popular this topic is. For example, you can find this kind of book, yeah, suspicious activity reporting for dummies, even, yeah. But of course, you can choose to listen me, not to read this book, yeah. Hopefully, it will be better, yeah. So why suspicious activity reporting is so important? Because those of you who are working as MLROs or compliance officers, they know that this famous Hamlet's quote, to report or not to report, yeah. So very often we facing such situations, yes. And when we facing such situations, if we deciding to report, of course we should report, and expectations from FIU is that we will report good enough quality SAR or STR, yes. So why STRs are so important in the whole ML framework, yes. If we will look into this framework, what could be the best representation of result of what we're doing? Yeah. If I will ask about all this QAC measures, yeah. When we bothering our customers, we collecting a lot of papers, we collecting a lot of signatures, we collecting a lot of data from various databases. Why are we doing that? It's a question. We're doing to find bad guys, yes. And if we have no possibility to find these bad guys or to report STR, it means everything what we are doing is not good enough. So that's why I presume that regulators, when they coming and visiting banks, the first question should be, okay, so how good are your STRs? How often you are filing STRs? What are feedback from FIU and so on and so on? Because otherwise, all other things which bank is doing, it's useless. We're just bothering our customers and we're just spending money for nothing, yes? I think you would agree with that. That's why it's so important to have very good quality of SARs. Okay, so what is SARs itself? It's a piece of information which we providing, which alerts us that our customer could be related to, in any case, could be related to possible money laundering or terrorist financing, yes? And we providing this information to FIU and only to FIU. By the way, it's SARs could be filed only to local FIU and not to any other law enforcement agency. That's one of the main rules as well. So, but how we could decide when to file or not to file, when this activity could be suspicious enough? And if you will look into the regulation, into FADF's recommendations and so on, you will find very informative explanation. When employee of the bank or obliged entity suspects or has reasonable ground to suspect, yeah? I think it's clear for everybody when you should report, yeah? So, no? For me, it's clear. I think FIU and Vilnius will agree that nobody expecting that you will find a smoked gun. You will find evidences of this predicate offense, of this money laundering, yes? But you should explain in your SARs what is these reasonable grounds to suspect. That's why itself STR and all content of STR is very important. Okay, so believe me or not, everybody who is filing a SAR it doesn't matter. It's the first line of defense, front officer, and so on. He always expects that tomorrow in the newspapers he will find information about criminals which were caught by police officers or men in black suits, which we think FIU is, yeah, guys are. But no, not it happens not always, or yeah, very not always, so to say, yeah. And to be honest, everybody who is reporting should understand that not always this information will be used in some criminal cases. Sometimes they could be used in tax authorities investigations. Sometimes they could use, and this is the best case scenario, they could be used for counterintelligence or intelligence agencies. For example, if they are fighting terrorists or something like that. So sometimes police or other criminal intelligence units, they starting their own investigations, which could last a year, 2, 3, or even more. So don't expect, if you filing a SAR, don't expect a result. Yeah, you should be proud that you're doing and you are part of this puzzle. Yeah, let's talk about volumes, and I will skip this because there was one mistake about Spain, Spain SARS volumes. But yeah, when we're talking about volumes of SARS, we should understand that during the last 9-10 years, the growth of SARS is incredible. It means that if, for example, across the biggest 12 European countries, the volumes of SARS in 2010, it was 560,000. What volumes we have last year? It was 1.6 million of SARS. Yeah, UK alone is receiving approximately 70,000 SARS. Yes, and even worse, we can find situation in US, almost 2 million SARS per year, usually. So you could imagine how, what are the volumes, yeah? And if to compare to Lithuania, of course, it's a little bit less, yeah? We providing only 1,400, almost. But believe me or not, volumes itself, it doesn't mean good quality, yeah? So, and everybody's talking about that. So interesting, what we obliged entities are usually reporting. Usually we're reporting cash. It's 40%. Different cash operations. It could be ATM operations, cash in, cash out. It could be currency exchanges. It could be deposits of cash. It could be cash withdrawals and so on, so on. So different cash transactions. And other 60% is other activities which could be very different. For example, it could be, I don't know, different behavior, unexpected behavior. It could be fraud. It could be other things which we know. So, for example, sanctions, involvement in sanctions, PEPs, and other stuff. But 40% in relation to cash. Yes, why? I think these figures could demonstrate why it's so important for us to pay attention to these cash transactions. Cash, these numbers are provided by European Central Bank, and we could say that it looks like cash is still a king. Yes, because almost 80% of all sales transactions in European zone are done by physical cash at point of sales. Yeah, only 90% or approximately 90% are done by payment cards. So you could imagine cash still is a king. Yeah, why cash is so complicated? Because in any other situation, and colleague from Estonia provided good example about transactions. It's easy to detect counterparties A, B. Company A, B, and C, E, and so on. And what about cash? If somebody is depositing cash, you should always, you cannot be sure about source of this cash. And yes, you could ask questions. Yes, you could ask some documents. But how you could be sure that this cash is related exactly to these documents? That's why it's so complicated. And that's why I think the most dangerous, so to say, operations are in cash, not in cryptocurrency, so to say, because in many situations, cryptocurrency is still possible to detect, still possible to monitor. They leaving some footsteps and so on. But in case of cash, it's a little bit more complicated. Yes. I want to mention some interesting facts which are now on the under discussion about SAR regimes. Based on some interviews with the past and present FOU heads, and here we're talking about global countries, US, Canada, and so on, up to 90% of SARs has no operational value. What it means? We're reporting nothing. It's useless. It's just wasting of our time and money. Yeah. But another stone to the law enforcement agency garden, so to say, fewer than 1% of criminal funds were frozen or confiscated by law enforcement. It means we filing SARs about nothing, but at the same time, law enforcement doing nothing to quote this, how to say, property or funds. Yeah. And we should look how much money we spent on this process, how much money we are wasting. More than $8 billion. So it costs money. We're doing a lot of tasks, but what is the result? About nothing. It's something what we should think every day when we're doing our tasks. Yes. And of course, the majority of people who involved in these controls, they very clearly stated that existing SAR regime is outdated, and we should rethink how it make better. Yeah. And today we discussed a little bit about PPP, private public partnership and so on. And I think it could be the best answer how to improve this in the short term. Yeah, I would not agree with my colleague from Estonia who said that at the beginning we should improve our monitoring solutions, and after that we will work on risk-based approach, on risk assessment and so on. I think everything should start from group-wide risk assessment. We should understand what kind of risks we could face, and after that we should know our customers, and after that we should improve our tools how to detect this possible unusual and suspicious activity. Yes, and of course each and every compliance officer expect to see these bad guys in the prison. Yeah. So police investigation and charge is the final stage of my SAR life cycle, so to say. Yes. What else? I want to emphasize the importance of KYC and suspicious activity reporting regimes interrelationship. I think if you want to have very good suspicious activity report, the ground or foundation for this report should be very good KYC or CDD information or KYC profiling. So how good you are in collection, in understanding your customer, as good you will be in detecting some unusual activity and in filing a good quality SAR. Yeah. So at the same time, when you filing a SAR, it should be somehow be event-driven trigger for further reassessment of customers' profile, of updating information about this customer and so on. So this is the related things, and if they are not related, it's a little bit most probably it could be a problem in the future. Shortly, how banks or obliged entities, how they're doing that, how they're investigating. Of course, they have many different possibilities to detect unusual activity. They have automated tools, which are normally different various monitoring systems or automated reports on whatever we want. At the same time, we have educated staff, hopefully, at the front office, which should understand when the customer doing something wrong or unaccepted or unusual, ask some additional questions, and in case of suspicious, to investigate this situation and escalate to MLROs, to the second line of defense, which is responsible for filing SR to the local FOU. Yeah, so it's 3 stages. If you will ask what is the main and the most important part of any SAR, I would say, and I think everybody will agree, it's conclusion or narrative. Yes. Usually, even if you are MLRO or compliance officer, you would agree that you starting reading any information from the conclusion. Yeah, that's normal. Believe me or not, I don't know about Lithuanian FOU, but in some reports, it's mentioned that some FOUs, they are looking only in the conclusion because of the volume of the SARs. They have no enough resources to review all the data, to analyze all the data. That's why wording and itself conclusion is very important. How to make it better? How to improve this? The recommendation is from the experts from the FOU is to follow so-called 5 W's rules. Yeah, so it means when you trying to conclude your investigation and file a SAR, it's recommended to answer to these questions: who is involved, why is the activity unusual, what happens, and of course, if relevant, when did it happen, where did it happen, and of course, if you have possibility, you could describe how they are doing it. So what was the criminal activity before which initiated these transactions and so on. So believe me, this is the best way how to do good enough conclusion. I want to share with you some tips and tricks how to make this conclusion even better. Yes, focus on what is unusual and suspicious. What it means. It means, and I think one more very much related thing, its conclusion should be brief and factual. What it means. It means that I don't think that FOU is interested what was the weather and how bad is your boss, that your salary is not good enough and something like that, and how you was feeling that day, rainy autumn day, yeah, but they just really want to know about what's going on, yeah, and they want to receive these facts in chronological sequence of events, because sometimes, believe me or not, our colleagues, they are jumping from, because they know this situation by heart, yeah, because they investigated that, and they're jumping, they're starting from the end. Yes, we caught this bad guy, yeah, we decided to report. After that, they telling, okay, but 3 months ago, he appeared in the bank and was not polite, yeah. After that, yes, but a week ago, I saw him on the next deck when he was depositing some cash or something like that. So it's a little bit, for this person who is providing this conclusion, it's everything is clear, what's going on and what it was. But believe me, for those who are reading, they are totally, how to say, miss attention between the lines, what's going on in reality. The language should be easy to understand, avoid acronyms and jargons. What it means? It means, I don't know, of course, about Lithuanian, it's very hard to say, but sometimes those who are working in the international organizations, they are writing down their conclusions in English, yes? And sometimes FOU accepting these conclusions or SARs in English. And sometimes people, they want to show their knowledge in English very much. and they writing like Shakespeare was writing their Hamlet, yeah, or something like that. And and believe me, not everybody is so good in that to understand all this old-fashioned words and phrases. So if you're providing it if you're writing down, please be concrete and please use very simple and understandable words. What about acronyms? You should understand that people from different organizations, they could understand the same acronyms differently. Yes. For example, even if we will take KYC, it could mean different things in various organizations. Yeah. In some organizations, it could be synonym of CDD, customer due diligence. In some other, it could be just a part of this CDD. For example, just information about purpose and intended nature of relationship with the customer. So just information about transactions. So, for example, SME, acronym SME. SME in some organizations, it could be small and medium enterprises. In some organizations, it could be subject matter expert. So please try to avoid that if you want to help our colleagues from FIU to understand it better. And don't speculate. What it means. Provide facts. Provide information based on real situations. For example, if your customer is not polite, it doesn't mean that he's a criminal, even if you truly believe in that. So, so if he smells bad, of course it's not so good, but it doesn't mean that he is suspicious or money mule, for example. Yeah. So, and if your country has relevant indicators of unusual activity, we already know that in Estonia they have 3. In Lithuania we have the list of this unusual activity indicators as well. So please, it's always recommended to connect these indicators to your suspicious activity report. What could be the reason of bad quality SARS? Many times during my career, I was facing that conclusion does not correlate with the investigation. It means sometimes our colleagues, they want to see something what they have no evidences about. Yeah, so they are saying yes, it's suspicious because of that, but when you're going through the investigations, you cannot find this factual information about that. So we should avoid that. No references to the sources used in the investigation. Yes, if we're providing that based on this and that, we decided this and that. Of course, we should make snapshots of the screens of the sources. We should make a copy of links to these sources and so on. And of course, we should use adequate arguments for conclusion. So it means we cannot say something if we have no evidences to prove. Evidences, it means nothing which could prove this our conclusion. There should be some. Sometimes they could be indirect. They could be few of them, or one of them, but there should be something. Yeah. And the duration of investigation is too long. I really believe that our colleagues from FOU are not expecting to receive SARS about historical events. For example, they don't want to see in the year 2019 information about operations in 2010. Yes. Of course, it maybe could be interesting, but I think it will be more interesting to the colleagues from FSA, yes, because it will be very good representation of the quality of this obliged entity controls, and not contacting customer or asking for documents. Very often we want to say that we know our customer, yeah, we are good friends of our customer, we concentrate our attention to our customer, yes, but we are afraid to call him and to ask some documents, how it could correlate to each other. If we're saying that we know our customer, and if we're facing some situations which cannot be proved without any contact with the customer, and I already provided one example, it could be cash deposits for example, yes, we should ask questions. It's not enough just to look into Facebook profile of our customer and said, oh yeah, they really are related, and yes, we know the source of funds because he mentioned something in his LinkedIn profile or something. Yeah. So, and we should understand. It was mentioned this defensive reporting and so on and so on. So I would say that you should remember that SAR is not a guided bomb. You cannot just launch and forget. So it means if you decided to file a SAR, you should follow up the activity of this customer in the future as well. Because otherwise, why you decided to file the SAR? Because you really suspect that his activity is suspicious. So if you decided that its activity is suspicious, it means you should take some actions. You should afterwards you should look, is this person doing something similar, and should take the risk, or to decide to terminate a relationship with this customer. If and you should not expect that FOU will knock in your doors and will say, okay, this customer is really bad. You could really terminate a relationship with him. No, nobody will say that. So you should do it by yourself. And always please remember that when you file when you're filing a SAR, you should respect your customer as well. You cannot just file because to avoid some possible problems in the future or something like that from the regulators. You should really believe that you have enough knowledge and suspicious that your customer is doing something wrong. If not, please don't file a SAR. Please close investigation. But if you're closing investigation, evidences should be even more or better than when you're filing a SAR. Why? Because if I would be, for example, regulator, I will not look into SARs which were filed. I will look into investigations which you closed. Because when you're closing investigation, nobody will have possibility to review and say, okay, you did mistake. No, nobody will tell you that. Only regulator in the future. Yeah. So please follow up activities which you are filing to the regulators. And the final things which I want to share with you is tipping off. Somebody of you could say, tipping off, it's not a problem at all. Yes. And if somebody will say that, I will say, you never filing a SAR and you never stopping transactions in Lithuania. Why? Because everybody knows that we have 10 working days period when we should stop transactions. Yes? And you could imagine what you should explain your customer 10 working days, which means at least 2 weeks, without tipping off. That somehow it's suspicious. And I would say that you could treat yourself as good ML specialist if you did it few times, and if you did it, and if you did everything correctly according to the law. So it's really a huge challenge how to make it. But at the same time, I want to say that we understand the purpose of that. That people from FOU, they're doing their own investigation, they're collecting at the same time, they're collecting their own information and so on. That's why we should try to help them and not disclose and not to leak this information to possible criminals. Yeah. So yes, we should coordinate our actions. So, and what means this tipping off? It's a process to letting customer know directly or indirectly that he or she might be subject of reporting or investigation. Yes. What kind of tipping off could be? Changing the way the communication with the customer. It sounds a little bit obvious, and maybe you will say, okay, what it is, what it means. And I think everybody of you will detect that something going wrong if, for example, normally, how normally your banker is talking with you. If you are a client for a long period of time, he's talking, okay, Andrius, we have very good product and we want to sell this product to you. It's definitely very, it will, I don't know, solve some of your financial problems or something like that, yeah? And let's imagine that one sunny day, the same person is calling to you and telling, Mr. Andrius Merkelis, it will be appreciated if during 2 working days you will answer us to these questions. It's a little bit different, yeah? And I will become a little bit suspicious. What's going on, yeah? What I did wrong? Still I have money in my account? No? Yeah, so it's not allowed to share this information even with your colleagues who are not permitted to have this information. Please don't talk about this suspicious with your friends and family members, especially in the airplanes, in the bars, in the restaurants, because so much interesting information you can hear during the lunch break when bankers are talking or traveling. Yeah, so please remember that. Why it's so important? Maybe it's nothing, but you never know what you reported. Sometimes you even have no understanding how serious it could be and what kind of people could be involved in that. So please be cautious. And of course, directly informing the customer about the suspicious. You would say it's never happens. It happens. Something we bankers or other relationship managers want to be so good for our customers that we telling everything. I was facing such situations. I was not telling, of course, but I was facing. And you could provide as much trainings as possible. People are people. They want to be good bankers. So what to do and what not to do. Tipping off it doesn't mean that you can't say nothing to the customer. Yes, you could say something, yeah, and normally include information that financial institution is obliged under the money laundering legislation to collect some kind of information. It's normal. It's not treated as tipping off. What could be? It's normal to ask about source of cash, especially about source of cash. It's normal to ask customer to explain purpose of the payments, international payments, and so on. This is not, and if somebody will ask why I should do that, of course you will. You could say that it's according to the law, we are obliged to do some actions. That's why we collecting this or that information. But you cannot say that that we asking this question because we received request from the FIU and they want to know something about you. You cannot say that. We, of course, when we asking our customer, we're expecting that he will provide information as soon as possible. Yes, because our correspondents are waiting, and they are angry Americans normally, yeah, and so on and so on. And sometimes we want to say that if you will not provide this information, we will file a SAR on you. But it's not allowed, believe me. And very tricky situations. For example, if you decided to terminate relationship with the customer because of previous SARs, and this person, for example, he wants to become your customer again, very often it could be a little bit complicated situation because the customer is telling, okay, account agreement is public agreement, and you must open me account, and so on and so on. And you just and sometimes colleagues which want to avoid how to say complicated situations, sometimes they saying, okay, but you are suspicious in the past, that's why we will not open new account, and that's not allowed. That could be treated as tipping off. Yeah, so please try to avoid that. And the final poster of my presentation, I found it in UK for you, and I think it's very good illustration of SARS regime, and very good wording. It's stated here that, of course, money laundering is a huge dirty business. Yeah, I think everybody would agree with that. But what's written there? If you miss the signs, you could be fined or prosecuted. It's a questionable in some countries, yeah. But in other words, are very good. Don't dirty your reputation. Submit a SAR if you are suspicious. And I would say that if you see something please report something. Yeah. So thank you for your attention. Any questions? Thank you.
I have one question. It is regarding STR reports, defensive reporting after the on-site inspection. As our colleague from Estonia said, we see the same situation in Lithuania. After each on-site inspection, the STR reports just jumps up from that institution that was inspected. Mm-hmm. And so do you have any suggestions how to avoid that defensive reporting?
I think, yeah, I have. I don't think is it good thing to advise regulators on that, yeah. but yeah, I would say that if you're filing a SAR, you should have very good ground for that, and it should be documented. If you don't have a ground for suspicious for conclusion, and you can't prove it, so it means it's a wasting of time, and it's a improper using of this reporting regime. So I think when you closing a SAR, so to say, situation, you should document at the same time. If you escalating, you should document as well. If you very good, interesting examples provided in the UK for you, they providing some explanations that we will not advise based on SAR. So it means SAR regime is not possibility to provide to receive advice on some situations and so on. So so I presume good documentation of this and evidences of that why we suspect that this situation was suspicious for us. It could be the best, and of course asking to prove it, asking to explain. It could be the best way to eliminate this defensive regime. And one more thing, it's ask what you did afterwards. If you not change the risk level of your customer, if you're still providing him or her with new products, if you enhance volumes of your relationship, so what the hell are you doing? Why are you reporting? Sorry. Good sign that question is bad.
No. Actually, the question is the same as Egle asked, you know, and just to clarify what you answered. And actually, these defensive reports, this is a problem. Actually, what definitely we're all facing, and FIU is facing. And you said that, you know, there are a lot of assessments done that financial institutions are reporting. Majority of reports are useless. But from the other hand, financial institutions are under pressure, because if you will be investigated, and as you said, please report criminal activity or you will be prosecuted.
Yes.
And everybody then, you know, maybe I should be safe than sorry, you know. And
can I answer?
But, you know, and you said that you need to document that process.
Yes.
But in all means, shouldn't be then some kind of expectations from authorities made in official way that, okay, I don't need a report which goes back like 5 years, you know. I don't want a report which talks about a small amount of money. I don't know. I'm just thinking loudly, but maybe it's not because that everybody understands that the quality is not, you know, could be better, but for some extent we should get guidance, but not in just trainings, but officially, that we could be, we could defend ourselves.
I have two answers for you. It's can I take this? It's working. One. So I have two answers for you. One is that of course we are obliged to report. FIU is obliged to provide us feedback. Yes. And we should discuss how to make it in the best way for both sides, for them and for us. The second answer could be PPP. And these public partnerships are because to solve this problem, this issue as well. This is why it's already decided that this existing SAR regime is outdated. We should change. Yeah, and I agree with that. And I want to say what was said when PayPal or MoneyGram compliance officer was fined in US. It was said, he said, no, but guys, I was just working in the company. The CEO should answer for that, yeah, because I was just doing something. And FinCEN, head of FinCEN, he said, okay, guys, if you're working in ML, you are part of the system. You're our colleagues. So if you don't have enough knowledge, if you are afraid, don't be ML officer. Don't work in this area, or be professional. So if you don't know how, if you just want to push the buttons and don't think, don't enhance your knowledge, it's not for you. This is my personal view. Maybe nobody will agree with that, but I think so. I hope so. We are all professionals here, yeah? I believe that. Truly believe.
Yeah. So speaking about the part of the defensive, the defensive STRs, there was actually the FATF report of the money mules that was published last year, and the professional money launderers. And there was a recent trend, like I'm not going to call it a trend, like a low trend on the dark web, where there was a communication of how to mitigate the rules of the STRs and so on. And one of their tools was to create a noise, create a lot of activity from money mules that is going to be reported. And like after investigation, it's going to show nothing because it was made by intention. Like for example, like to create a typology, it looks like money laundering, for example. Investigation is being made, but then there is nothing. Like, so it's just wasted time, wasted resources, while the actual perpetrator is hiding in the darkness, doing something that is on a larger scale, for example. So is there an analysis, for example, done on such, like, I mean, like, is there any detected patterns for these false positive STRs? I know that, like, as you said, like 90% is not being used, is nothing. So is there a way to detect patterns in this 90% to try to understand, are these like random, or there is an actual cause, intention behind creating these 90% in order to protect those that are actually doing the bad things? Yeah.
Okay. I'm working additionally, yeah? I'm providing microphones. Very, very good questions. And the same report or former Europol director, he just mentioned that only 1% of like, you know, people of this professional money launderers are caught. Yeah. So yes, they are clever guys, and we should be a little bit more clever. So it means the colleague was providing information how to improve this monitoring tools and so on. So yes. They, believe me, they know what we could do, because it's very easy. You could appear in each and every conference and you talk with the vendors and you will receive whatever we want about all the scenarios, tools and so on. So I truly believe that some of these bad guys, they have previous experience in law enforcement, in banking sector. They are clever ones, yeah. That's why we have only a few cases which they are convicted, yeah, so, or not. Only a few, yeah, so as I remember, the first convicted person for money laundering in Lithuania was from Estonia. Okay, we were clever than Estonians, but now they have very good guidance. I respect that, and sorry. So yes, we should be, and we should use all resources we have, and we should think out of the box, and we should use all this machine learning and so on, even if they enhance all if they provide more alerts, more manual work, but it will help because maybe people are not so smart to obtain all this amount of information, which could be used as a noise. But very good point. I truly agree with what you are saying. Yeah. Somebody else? No questions? It was not interesting? So thank you for your attention. Hopefully, I was not providing real cases or something like that, but everything what I was saying, it's based on my 20+ years experience in fighting crime and money laundering and so on, so on. So all my life I'm doing only this. Thank you.